No, you got to give me at least one more because I don't.
Okay, one more. Fine, we can go one more. That's fine.
Cause
Um, Real quick, if you're going for a hockey team in the Stanley Cup this year, who is
who's in contention?
it?
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Draft Digest. The sickest NFL draft and scouting podcast. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome into another episode of the Sick Podcast Draft Digest. John Vogel, Emily Van Buskirk here. I've got weird ways of saying things because I've got so many different accent inflections. How do you like your last name being pronounced, actually?
No, you nailed it. You nailed it in one,
Perfect.
Van Buskirk. Oh, sorry, we're on camera now. I should probably take off my sunglasses for an interview. That's probably the correct way to do that. I'm so excited. Show number 2. Here we go. Welcome to
The
the Sick
the shade is still being thrown, quite literally.
Podcast forever.
But no, thanks for tuning in. Check out the show, the previous episodes. Here we're coming up on the summer. It's officially dead season in the NFL, which means that the number one headline on ESPN today is pointed out. I think I was on a radio show out of Pennsylvania today, and they said the number one headline in sports right now is Shador Sanders is picked the number 12 as his jersey number. And people are finding cryptic ways to break that thing down in many, many different facets. So it was quite interesting, actually.
People were
Um,
talking about the draft being named in DC in the coming years. That
yeah,
had to have
that's been
been,
another one. hmm That was
yeah, that would have
yesterday's news,
been.
though. That was yesterday. That was
Oh,
Monday. We're past that now. But no, that
sorry.
DC draft is going to be fun.
I'm very interested to see what they're going to do with that because my friend from the NFL who works for them, Kim, she texted it to me and was like, she's really excited about it. To me, it seems like a logistical nightmare to have it in a city like that. Even though I'm excited for all the things they could do, it seems like a lot of work. And so I'm curious to see what they do with that, you know?
Well, they got 2 years to figure it out. So
Yeah.
hopefully that's enough time to get everything laid down, the groundwork. Um,
Yeah. We'll
I
see.
think it's cool that, you're going to have potentially your name called. Potentially in that draft, we're looking at Arch Manning. There's a really good chance he stays till that draft.
Yeah.
And so your name gets called, you walk up on that stage, and as they're taking the pictures of the stage behind you is potentially the Washington Monument. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm getting chills just thinking about that. That's actually freaking cool. Like,
It's like
wait,
the equivalent of
is it
Army-Navy game every year. If for college football,
exactly?
that's the vibe. So I'm here for it. I'm just curious, as someone who's covered so many drafts now, each time we do it, we kind of analyze like, okay, this was easy, this was difficult, whatever. And we've talked about this last time, like Nashville being one of the easiest ones just from
Mhm.
a getting in, going places standpoint, and then Vegas being one of the hardest. I think DC is going to fall in the middle somewhere of that, but it just depends on if they want to spread everything out and showcase the city, which would be cool, but also difficult. So I don't know. Will they
Yeah, and
have
all the
boats on
security concerns. Oh, there's a lot there. There's a lot there to
there's
think
a lot.
about.
Yeah. So, anyways, but
It'll be fun. That'll be fun.
I didn't see the Shador Sanders news, so because I was too focused on that other news. So
Well, I didn't see it either. I was told about it. So, um, it's been a tape day today, going through tape and getting everything starting to get squared away for next year's class because you got to get familiar with this class and figure out who exactly you're watching this year. Um, Lay the groundwork. But I want to take a couple more episodes to go over, this one and probably the next one next week, and kind of look back at this previous draft.
yeah,
One of the things that I think has been, you know, difficult for a lot of media people to sort of digest, if that, not to use the pun, but to bring that into this. It's essentially that, you know, everybody is going to grade the draft after the draft if you're in draft media. And when I first started, I was all about that too. Yeah, you got to get your draft grades out. You got to tell people who did good, right? Um, when the fact of the matter is, everybody has a different opinion about these players.
Yeah.
Your opinion is going to be different than the team that picked them most of the time.
Yeah.
Um, and so people kind of get caught up in that their draft grades, and they think, "Hey, I don't like player A who went in the first round, and because I don't like him, and this team picked him, it's a terrible draft." Um, so I think when you're assessing a team and how they performed, how they picked the players, there's a few things that you want to do. And I think first off, look at what are they drafting for, and that's what I really want to spend on this episode. Um, you're either drafting for need or you're
Mhm.
drafting for the future. That's your two basic philosophies going into a draft, and sometimes those don't necessarily align and stay that way through the entire draft. But you can see the trend when you look at the picks a lot of the times and analyze it to the roster. There's obvious teams that are going to play a lot of these guys right away. There's teams that are not necessarily going to play them right away.
There's some
Uh,
guys that need to play right away, even if you don't expect them to play right away. I think one of the best examples of that is the Cowboys a couple years ago. Tyler Biotish out of Wisconsin. He was
yeah.
a really high draft pick, but was not going to play. And then boom, gets thrown in his rookie season, does really well, has a great. So I don't understand, I guess, to your point, how they don't collide more often as, yes, this is a need, but it's also for the future. And those things to me seem like they should coincide more. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
they
Yeah, yeah,
should.
yeah. I can see that. I think what you look at is, first off, I think you've got teams that break down into three categories of where they stand as a franchise, right? Are you acquiring talent?
Mhm.
Are you sort of in that purgatory where you want to acquire talent, but you're not in a great position to? Or are you abundant with talent, right? So that's why we see the teams typically when they're abundant and they're full of talent. They're not going to draft guys that they're going to play right away a lot of the time. And now
Yeah.
these instances do occur, injuries and stuff, but not always. That's like not the plan going in. But you can kind of tell by looking at the first 5 rounds. Okay, this team is drafting based on need. This team's drafting for the future. I'll use an example. I think that there were two teams that stood out to me that were drafting best for need this year. I think the Tennessee Titans and the New England Patriots were both teams. They were very focused, dialed in on these are needs that the roster has that need to be addressed. Um, when you start with the Titans, I know we spent a lot of time on the Titans last month. It's not just because the producers are Titans fans and they were back in the back room kind of listening. It wasn't anything about that,
No.
but it was because they legitimately first off did a great job with their draft, I think,
Mhm.
and secondly, there's a lot of guys to talk about that they picked that have really cool stories that were overshadowed by a certain player falling in this class. Um, but Cam Ward, obvious need. You need a quarterback. In the second round, you go Femi Oladeo. You need another edge rusher. You just moved Harold Landry. Kevin Winston Jr. at safety. He very well may plug and play right away this year. Because of the lack of depth that they have on their back end. I mean, right now at safety, they've got Xavier Woods, Amani Hooker, nobody that blows you away. With they're solid there. So Winston could play right away. Um, the receivers, Shamir DK and Alec Aomanor. Like these guys,
Io Manor, you can do it.
Manor, excuse me, my
It's
bad.
tough. I feel like the only people that'll know that are actual Stanford fans, and there's only
Uh,
like 10 of us, so I got you.
there's a few more. Yeah, I think Andrew Luck brought some of the fan base back.
I mean, yes and no. We could have a whole discussion about that because he did have to fire the head coach due to inappropriate behavior with women. So we hate that we hired somebody like that, right? But they just lost their recruit quarterback. It's a whole thing. But Io Manor
Ashley
was one of
Daniels
the
to Auburn. I saw that.
yeah. So
Um,
it's a mess. But yes, Io Manor is a bright spot, and I'm excited to see him with Tennessee. And I think if you needed to play him, he could, but he's going to be a guy that could develop by watching.
oh yeah, and I think he's going to play because you just moved. They lost
Mhm.
Nick Westbrook Akine, so
Right.
that's an immediate need that needs to be filled. That's not right there on the roster. Gunnar Helm, a tight end. That's a guy that's going to play pretty much right away. He's your tight end too. And
Yeah.
Chig Okonkwo, your starting tight end right now, is a free agent next year. So it's really clear when you look at that. That's like these are needs.
Yeah.
This is not drafting for the future. These are guys that they want to play as soon as possible, and a lot of them are going to get opportunities right away. DK could beat him out. I don't think he does. I don't think he beats out, Alick, but um, I think that there's going to be a good, healthy competition there, and they were drafted because of the need.
Yeah.
So that's a perfect example of a team that's drafting for need, because every single one of those guys, we sit there and go, yep, they can plug in, they can play right away.
Yeah.
They're going to be bright spots. You feel really good about that kind of a class, and that's one of those classes that we could be at the combine next year, and Neil Stratton's going to be announcing, hey, this draft class of the year goes to the Tennessee Titans because all of these players freaking played.
Yeah.
Um,
That's top to
but
bottom one that you look at and you're like, okay, there's a cohesive situation. These people know what they're doing. Because, a lot of these teams, I know you're going to get into more of them. You see, like, okay, first round draft picks to me are easy in the sense that you know what these guys are doing because they've been showcased or the film that's been watched the most. But when you get down into those meatier 4 and 5 picks, like we were just talking about, when you draft guys that are good talent, that are smart, and that can play right away with no issues off the field in a way that the Tennessee Titans did, that to me is just whoever is leading that room, that's just smart. Those people know what they're doing. They have a clear vision and they're all on the same page, which I feel like in the NFL is actually so much harder to be than anything else is on the same page. So I agree with
right,
you.
yeah, and that's another whole that could be a whole episode right there, just talking about cohesion within a building,
Mm-hmm.
and how difficult that is. You have to get everybody to buy in, and there's a lot of different ways that you can do that. But first year general manager Mike Borgonzi coming over, um, obviously killed his first class, and I think that we'll look back on this and be like, yeah, this is this is the thing that really was the catalyst that started the Titans coming back into it.
Okay.
Um,
We'll
Now you
mark
look at a
that.
team like yeah, there you go. Put it up on the Twitter. Um, when you look at a team like the Eagles, right,
Mm-hmm.
and not just because we're Super Bowl champs, or nothing
Oh,
like
oh boy.
that.
Okay.
You look at the Eagles and their class. A lot of these guys you don't necessarily see playing right away. Jahad Campbell, their first pick, they move up one spot to take him. He's got a shoulder injury that's going to keep him out of most of camp. Great
Yeah.
player, but obviously
Mm-hmm.
not a guy that you're picking to play right away. Your linebacker room's really good. N'Kobe Dean's there. The Zach Bond, you just signed to a 3-year deal. So you've extended him. You kept him in town. I know that there's another line, Jeremiah Trotter Jr. So you've got a really good linebacker room there. And Campbell is not necessarily going to be forced to play right away. Andrew
Which is
Mkubu. No, that's great for him. Absolutely. But Mkubu, this is your second pick. And that's a guy, again, good talent, but he's coming into a crowded room. You've got Sidney Brown that you drafted, Lewis Seen you just brought in, Reed Blankenship. Those are probably going to be your two starters. Cooper DeJean will rotate into that safety bit out of his nickel spot. So
fan
like
favorite Cooper. Even I know
exactly. So you've got a crowded room,
that.
and you don't need him to play right away. And we could sit here and go through every single one of these picks. Ty Robinson, not a guy that needs to play on the defensive line right away. Mac McWilliams, not a guy that needs to play in that secondary right away. Munden at linebacker, another one of these depth guys, not going to play right away.
Yeah.
Drew Kendall, you just replaced Jason Kelsey with Cam Jurgens, and man, did that work out really well.
What do you like about this Kyle McCord pickup, the QB? I kind of, yeah, I was like, okay.
Yeah,
all right.
yeah, that fits into the Tanner McKee style, right? It's
another
projected to be a backup quarterback.
Yep.
Exactly. So, you end up with, you look at that class, that is abundantly clear. Hey, these are good players.
Right.
And maybe they have a few little flaws to their game that can be developed, need a little time to adjust to the speed, however that is. And you still feel really good about that class, because they're going to be playing next year. We're not going to hear Neil Stratton over there at Inside the League going, hey, with the best draft of the year, Philadelphia Eagles, because none of these guys are going to play this year. This is going to be one of these that we look back 5 years from now and go, hey, so Ty Robinson signing a multi-million-dollar deal with the San Francisco 49ers at, 5 years, $90 million. And wow, what a pick that was for them in the fourth round, right? Like, wow, he was incredible. It's going to be one of those types of classes.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. So a draft grade, a lot of times for this kind of a class, the Eagles, is going to say bad. It was bad draft. No,
Bad.
nobody here that's going to play. They're all backups and blah blah blah. No, this is a master class right here. This is
It's a
proving that you have right.
visionary situation.
It's proving that you have so much talent, you have so much depth
You don't,
that
yeah.
you don't need to pick anybody for right now. So we're just going to stack the roster and keep loading up. And don't forget, Eagles have 12 picks next year. They're going to do it all over again. 3 third rounders, 2 fourth rounders, and 4 fifth rounders.
That's how you stay consistently at the top. I mean, I don't understand why this is so difficult for teams to figure out. Do they just freak out when then they're like, oh, I'm just going to grab whatever's good on there? I don't get it. I know it takes patience. It takes understanding of the game and who people are. But why can't everybody just draft like that? Why?
So that's a great question. And here's what I think.
Okay.
I think a lot of teams that you see have success, a standout year. Take the LA Rams 2021, for example. Perfect example. They win the Super Bowl. And you're like, okay, now it's time to reload, right? Well, you gave up your first round picks for Matthew Stafford. You gave up your second round picks for Jalen Ramsey and your third round picks for Von Miller. Those guys, 2 of those 3 guys had contracts expiring.
Yeah.
So you sold out to win the Super Bowl. You got the ring, but now you can't really replace those guys, right? So that comes into this is the whole patience aspect of team building, which is, yeah, we need to be okay with having a bad year and maybe not being as competitive, right? Then we have to be okay with, once we become good, we don't jump at the opportunity to add someone who's going to be a game changer to this team, but sacrifice something for the future. And that's what the Eagles have done consistently. You go back to their Super Bowl victory when they beat the Patriots back in 2017, right?
Yeah.
That was a team that we were talking about coming into next year. Like, these guys are going to be really good again because everybody's still there. And they were okay. They weren't as good, but they were able to take that, figure out what needed to be adjusted. In that case, it was Carson Wentz, switch out the quarterbacks, and then continue to patiently build up that talent and get it to that point. So now the real challenge for the Eagles have done it. Howie's done a much better job this time around, winning a second Super Bowl with that understanding of, hey, we need to make sure that the future is secured as well. So 12 picks is going to absolutely do it next year, and that's what's going to help keep them towards the top. Because they're going to have. That goes back to what Eric DaCosta talked about, Ravens general manager. Shortly after this draft, he just did an interview with, I don't remember who it was. I think it might have been the Ravens team guys. And he spent 2 minutes talking about the philosophy that he has in the draft, which is, hey, the more picks that I have, the higher percentage or the higher chance I'm going to have of hitting on them. So if you look at the Ravens this year, they took, I think they had, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6 round picks.
Yeah.
And they kept picking over and over and over again, right? So they take a corner, Cone out of the MAC. I forget if he was Western or Central Michigan. I think he was Central.
I think
they took Tyler Loop, the kicker, and then cut Tucker. So they replaced their kicker. And then with those other 3 picks, they go wide receiver LeJontay Wester, Aeneas Peoples, the defensive tackle, and then they take another corner out of Rutgers and Robert Longerbeam.
Ugh, Rutgers. No.
So what's the strategy here, right?
Right.
The strategy is, hey, we have these certain needs. We're in the 6th round. Every team gets 1 6th round pick, unless you get some comp picks on the back end. All right, so the more times that we pick in the 6th round, the higher chance we're going to have of hitting on them. And here's why. Not the individual player, but because you're
Mhm.
picking 5 times, you
Right.
have a higher percentage chance, right, of hitting
Like
on at
one
least
of them,
one.
right? Like one of them. I mean, that is math. So yes,
Exactly.
probability and
It is
statistics.
math. It is probability.
But is that
But
how
it
you
makes
want
it.
to treat these guys as mathematical equations? That doesn't. That's weird.
I
I
think,
understand. I get what you're
yeah, when
saying.
you're making the picks, it's not necessarily taking the humanity out of it. It's just more so saying
We're just
the
gonna do
sixth round, mathematically, you have maybe 3 to 4 starters a year that come out of the
Mhm.
sixth round, right?
Right.
So the more times we pick in the sixth round, the better chance we have of hitting a starter here, a guy that develops into that.
Interesting.
You know what I'm saying?
No,
So
yeah, I get what you're saying.
with Luke, you've already hit because you've already got your kicker.
Yeah.
Now, that's a whole nother conversation to get into with Tucker and all his allegations of misconduct. But I think there was a lot of truth to the fact that it was a football decision because Tucker last year was not good from beyond 50 yards.
Yeah.
It was abysmal at times, actually. Like I remember going about halfway through the year, and every time I'd see him line up to kick anything from over 50, it was like, I don't think he's going to hit this. Like it was that drastically bad. I'd have to pull up the stat. I don't know exactly what he ended up kicking from over 50. Um, but it was not good this year. I'm going to go ahead and pull that up just because I am curious now.
I love a good kicker stat. Hit me with it. There's so many people out there that are upset with kicker picks in the draft, and I'm like, just calm down because this is it's
Okay, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was,
it
but
never
by
is.
his standards, so actually, the last 2 years he's not been good from plus 50.
Okay.
Last year he was 1 out of 5, and this year he was 6 of 11. There was also a drop. This is the first time since 2018 that he missed multiple attempts from between 40 and 49.
Jesus. What?
So he went 5 of 8 from 40 to 49.
That just changes your whole how you approach the offense because if you can't account for that's crazy. That's crazy. No.
Yeah, it's so
There's so many
it
kickers out there.
really
Get out of here. No. No, no.
I think there really is a lot of truth to it was a football decision.
Yeah.
Um, because you can't line up and kick like that and get
Win
paid the
football
money that
games.
Tucker's getting paid.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's the one thing you're
Now,
doing, and you should be doing it well. And I know that's the argument in kicking in general is like, how hard is it? It is actually hard, to be fair. But that's why these guys are like the guys that are good at it are so good at it. I mean, there's a bunch of guys that could do it. I could name 20 college football kickers that could do better than that. That's crazy. You should not be
oh, and
be
I'll
paid
I'll
money.
tell you right now, this guy that they picked in the 6th round, Tyler
Yeah,
Loop. Um,
yeah,
you can ask a friend of the show, Thor Nystrom, about me and Tyler Loop. This goes back to like 2022. We were in the fantasy league, college football fantasy, and my
yeah.
kicker was Tyler Loop, and he's sitting there going, "Who is Tyler Loop?" I'm like, dude, just wait. Just wait. 6 and 9 from 50 plus this year with a long of 62.
Okay, 62.
That's Tyler Loop. He's
I
got
like
a
that.
cannon as well. hmm
Well, hopefully it
So,
translate. I mean, the argument is okay, college it is slower. It's a little bit different. So hopefully, it translates, but it sounds like he'll
mhm.
he'll be
Yeah, that's why they took him. He's got a cannon like too, and he was before they were making him kick from long distance a lot. When Arizona had that real good year last year in
yeah.
23, he was dead on accurate. I mean,
Nice.
very consistent. Even this year, I think 18 and 23 is when he ended up kicking.
Nice.
So, point is, you there's there is a mat there that DaCosta did have a point, which
Mhm.
is, hey, we want our 6th round pick to kind of hit. So, we'll go ahead and collect these things and
Yeah,
take more shots at it.
for sure.
And because we're gonna hit one of them at least. And I think that LeJohntay Wester could be that guy that they hit on too. Because I saw him in person when he was still at Florida Atlantic,
Mhm.
and I had no idea who he was when I showed up there that game. They're playing Alabama Birmingham and in Birmingham, and I saw him run around on the field, and I was like, "Who is this guy?" I mean, he's tiny. He's
Oh,
like a little drink of water, but golly, he could fly. And
I love that.
he ended up at Colorado, and now he's the sixth round pick. But um, you know, I think that there is some credence to that strategy, which
Yeah,
is take more picks equals more shots at somebody sticking on the roster and really making it.
for sure. Well, I like that difference that you explained between, the future and the current needs. Do you think that there's teams that just missed everything completely? I know we just talked about two good draft, you know, teams, but what in your opinion was somebody or a team or two that just didn't seem like they had any strategy for both the future and or current needs, if you had to
Yeah,
say?
Miami fits that perfectly
Okay.
uh, with what the Miami Dolphins did. So you know they ended up taking three guys that are nose tackles in the class, which
Well, I
I
love
can
that for
I
nose tackles, but
well I can understand that to a certain extent. But here's the thing: is Miami plays with a 3-4 front,
Mhm.
which means they have one nose tackle on the roster, and or at least that starts right. You're going to
Right.
put two defensive ends, guys that'll play the 3 and the 5 tech, and then you're going to have one guy lined up right over the center or slide to the 1.
Right.
So you've got two nose tackles on the roster already, Benito Jones and Neil Farrell. So I can understand why Kenneth Grant, you go ahead and make that pick
Well, yeah,
because
we talked about that
Kenneth
first round
Grant,
pick.
yeah,
He's
Kenneth Grant's a stud. I
Yeah,
mean,
he is.
um, when he chased down Katron Allen in the open field a couple years ago, 25 yards down the field, it was like this cat at 345 pounds, 350 pounds, whatever he was at the time, is moving. And
Yeah,
he has hustle. And so you see the power and you see the athletic ability that he brings. I can understand that. And you really want probably three guys playing the nose tackle on your roster. And the problem is, uh, where does Jordan Phillips, who you took with your third or fourth pick, let's
third
see,
pick,
third pick in the
mhm,
fifth round,
fifth round.
where does
Yeah,
he fit on the active game day roster?
yeah,
He probably doesn't. And Zeke Biggers, I like Zeke Biggers. I think that that's an absolute steal in the seventh round. But again,
yeah,
are you going to stash him on the practice squad where anybody could steal him? Like,
yeah,
what are we doing? That doesn't make a lot of sense.
yeah.
The offensive tackle, yeah, you want your offensive tackle, you want your offensive line to get upgraded. Tua's taking a lot of hits. The concussion issue is real.
Yes,
Um, you announce him as a tackle, but is he going to play tackle? I don't think so. I think he's more of a guard, which you just signed James Daniels to a pretty good deal. You have Liam Eichenberger there. So is that in Jackson Carmen too is there?
yeah,
Jason Hines is there. So is that a priority need? Um, Especially that high in the second round with who was on the board. Okay.
yeah,
Uh Jason Marshall Jr. at a corner right after Jordan Phillips. Dante Trader. Okay, I can see it. You want a little depth in the secondary.
yeah.
Um
I love Ollie
uh,
Gordon. I mean, he would have
yeah.
been one of our, front runners for the dope, but obviously
Well,
he
this is
had
a
that.
weird spot for Ollie
It
because
is, yeah,
up until this year, Miami has not had a running back on their roster that runs anything slower than a 4.4.
right.
And now they've got two of them, and Ollie Gordon and Alexander Madison. So maybe you want to have that power dynamic. Maybe you feel like that's what you've been missing. Um, and
You should,
I
but
guess that's a future
is it
pick.
right?
You could go, okay, sixth round, write that off fine. You're taking a shot there. I get that. And then Quinn Ewers. Why did people not take Quinn Ewers until the seventh round? Well,
Yeah,
because you people were afraid of a couple things. First off, I understand the story about Quinn Ewers. I want to preface that by saying that. I understand the story. I understand how the media covered him. I understand how on the broadcasts, how they talked about him. He's a very high profile player. He was the number one player when he came out of high school. He reclassed a year early, and then he was still the number
Yeah.
one player. So he's a very high profile player. So the first thing a lot of people felt was he's too high profile of a player to be holding a clipboard on the sideline. That sounds like a silly reason, but there is some credence to that. If things don't go well with Tua, for whatever reason this year, if you end up going 2-4 out of the first 6 games, now
Yeah.
you've got a quarterback situation on your hands because it's all Tua's fault, whether it is or not. The second thing is, and this is personally, I heard this from a couple other people too, but it was more of a confirming what the vibe that I got from Quinn. You weren't very certain of the type of character that he was. He kind of comes across at certain times as almost like a con artist. I think if you go back to uh, the Gruden camp video that came out right before the draft with Quinn, and there's a certain play that they're breaking down, and I think Gruden asked him what the protection was. Well, first off, he's asking about the plays and what are they called and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And something felt off with the way that he was kind of like pulling some of these names. It felt like he's kind of pulling them out of his ass. And then they get to a protection. He goes, "Oh, I don't remember what we called that protection." And I'm like, you've been in the room for 3 years. You've been on the team. You've been in this offense for 3. You can't tell me what that protection's called? On a play you ran for 3 years? Oh, yeah, this is one of our bread and butter plays. I don't know what the protection is. Are you kidding me?
Do you
So,
think though that that's a product of environment? I mean, like, and I'm not making excuses for him. I don't know him as a person. I've covered him a little bit, and he's always been
yeah.
seemingly fine. The reports that I know people have covered him, he's been respectful. He's a passionate guy. He's competitive as all hell. Do you think that's maybe more a little bit of product of environment of being at a place like UT? I just feel like that we've seen instances of this where players get away with stuff like that at programs like that. We saw, I'm not saying that he's Johnny Manziel, but we saw Manziel get away with I mean, if you couldn't have asked, Manziel wouldn't have been able to name a play, let alone, tell you where it was coming from. Not that it's the same, but I just feel like Texas has this reputation in general of, especially with the changes in college football, of letting that kind of stuff be a little more lax. Not that Arch Manning will be like that, probably not, but I don't know. I feel
that would concern me even more, because Arch Manning's there, right?
yeah.
Because the entire year, people have been clamoring, and there's a whole discussion for quite some time about Arch Manning should be playing over Quinn Ewers. That would concern me even more. If you're playing with such a high profile backup quarterback, and you're still not learning the offense the way that you need to, then maybe that makes it worse.
Flaw or is it a program flaw? We don't know, but I just feel like
that's a good question.
The college football has changed, that these kids are not held as responsible everywhere and held as accountable. And I'm not saying that that's what it is, but I think it's fair to look at, when we look at these guys coming into the draft, it's very different now than it was 10 years ago. And these guys are different. What they expect is different. What they do is different. I don't know. So I want to give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, but I guess we will find out pretty quickly what it is and what it isn't,
No, absolutely. And I think that's a good point you bring up. But yeah, that's part of the multi-million-dollar equation here at the draft, right? And that
I think
was
they just said
thing.
they spent $40 million on this roster at Texas. I think I just read that. That's where are we? Like, what time are we in? Like, where are we living?
That checks. And it's because we know Ohio State spent $20 million last year on their national championship roster, right?
It's like if someone's paying you $7 million, are you going to learn all the protection?
Yeah, I would personally.
I agree. I understand that your work ethic is not under question here, but I just think that you're being handed all these things. Not that they don't work hard for them; they do work, but it's just different now, and they're the main focus. These guys, what they want is more of a priority now than what the coach wants or what the team wants. Some of these guys are making more than the offensive coordinators. That's wild. So, and there's a danger in
Yeah.
that. So I think we start to see, we're judging them the same, but it's not the same anymore. Do you know what I mean?
It's not the same at that level. And so there's
Right.
less
Of course.
tolerance now coming to this level
Mm-hmm.
for that type of stuff,
Gonna be
where
interesting.
in the Jamarcus Russell era, that may
Mm-hmm.
have been sort of skipped over, right? Okay,
Yeah.
well, product of the system, product of the school, right? And
Yeah.
now it's like, well, you're making the money, so it's
Yeah.
not a question of money.
Right.
Um, now we got to see that you've actually put the work in and that you're going to be productive when you come into the building. And I
Yeah.
think that was the biggest question about Quinn,
Yeah.
and that's why he fell to the 7th round. But and that's a
We'll
weird
see.
spot for him too. That's a very weird spot. Miami's not a great offense to be putting Quinn into, I don't think.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I suppose we will see.
I will say Miami's home of one of my favorite fullbacks. So, and that's another to your point about bruising running backs. Well, they have Alec Ingold too. So what? That's a lot. That's a lot of power if for a team that's not going to run a lot of power.
Yeah, and I think adding Larry Borum
Mm-hmm.
and James Daniels kind of points to maybe they want to be a little bit more physical in the trenches.
I would
But
love that. We love that for
I
them.
don't think adding Jono Savaniana is necessarily acquitting to that vision. He's more of a finesse guy
Yeah.
than he is a power guy.
I know. It was an odd
Um,
mix. I agree with you on that. It was
there's
weird.
there's a lot of oddities there in Miami. That's for sure. Miami fans are probably panicking. Don't jump off the roofs yet. We still got a football season to play.
Yeah.
And hey, we've been wrong about this stuff all the time.
Yeah. The more that I cover sports, the less I know sometimes about sports. That's the sad truth. I know people pay me to do this, and I get it, but sometimes you just can't know. You don't know how these things are going to pan out. But we can give you our best guess, which is what we're going to do every week here.
That's it. Well, I think we ran a little bit over, so Shane hopefully is in the back room there enjoying the hockey game. I know that we got another one started. Vegas, at time of recording, is going at it, so this ought to be fun. But it's hockey time. It's time to get some hockey going in this household. I don't know about over there on the West Coast.
Time to go. Oh, well, I still got daylight out, so I'm going to go to the beach, actually. An appropriate place for these classes.
Absolutely. Well, we'll be back at it next week, and I think next week we'll spend a little bit more time looking at some of the teams that didn't do as well. And then after that, it's summertime, which means we get to look over the positions and see what are we what adjustments do we need to make to the projections and exactly what we're looking for. And we're going to have plenty of time to do that. It's going to be fun.
Perfect. I can't wait.
So for Emily and for everybody at the Sick Podcast and for myself, tune in next week. We'll be back at it. Shane, let's get us out of here.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Draft Digest on YouTube, X, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.